Well, welcome. I'm Hailey Johnson, the founder and curator of Hammerspace Gallery, and I'm really glad that you could all attend the closing of Music Box Interior by Bella Kiser. This wonderful artist next to me. Thanks for being here with me.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. Thanks for the opportunity to create and show this piece in this really amazing space. I feel like this space was meant
Yes,
to have this.
It's very special to me.
Yeah.
And I was really excited to find your work because you are working at this really beautiful intersection of so many unique practices, things like site-specific installation and performance and sound art and wearable architecture that already kind of exist outside of like the traditional art forms that we're used to seeing and interacting with. And I love that you're able, like I said, to be at that intersection of all of those because you're really collapsing like all of the boundaries between object and viewer, or art and audience. And I'm just so grateful to be able to provide that for people.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited that people are able to have the chance to experience this piece right now and to be able to experience my work at all. I started thinking about interactivity, wearables, soft sculpture, honestly, when I was in high school, actually, is when I started thinking about wearables. I grew up in Chicago, and I was really obsessed with Nick Cave's work, actually. I would see his sound suits at the Art Institute. And so from a young age, I was like, I'm going to be a wearable artist. Like, I'm going to make wearables. And
not very typical, and I love it.
And when I was 14, I was like, but I'm not going to learn how to sew. I'm going to be a wearable artist, but I don't feel like learning how to sew. Like, I'm a woman, I'm supposed to know how to sew, so I'm not gonna. Which was just like a very silly decision of me. But that helped me to start thinking about like found objects and using found materials in my work. Yeah. So then I was like, that's how I'm going to make wearables. Then I went to art school and started making wearables out of metal. Actually, I was doing like a lot of metalworking, and I was like, okay, now I'm going to make like a dress out of metal. That sounds right to me. But then from there, I was doing a lot of research on like artists like Do Hossa, who makes like amazing textile architecture that just like blew my mind. And we're seeing shows like William Forsythe's shows. William Forsythe is a choreographer that I'm obsessed with. He had an amazing show called Choreographic Objects at the ICA in Boston.
Oh, perfect.
Everything was interactive. And because he's a choreographer, you were using your body, and I was using my body in like a really new and novel way when experiencing the work.
Yeah.
So truly how I came to the intersection of like where I work. It's just like I took elements from all the artists that like I look up to and like whose work I enjoy experiencing and interacting with the most, and it's kind of like, okay, how do I make my work in that place that like, I feel the most awe. And like when I like play and awe are very important in my work, and like in order to achieve that feeling, I think that the piece needs to be interactive and immersive. And
it is immersive and it's experiential in a way that you don't see very often. You don't get the chance to experience very often work that is able to completely blur that boundary line of where the art starts and the audience member starts.
Yeah.
And you've done it beautifully.
Thank you.
And that makes complete sense with those influences. And I'm so grateful for your younger self to be like that you had those opportunities to see those artists and like experience work that was interacting with the audience in that same way, to like see that was even possible, right? Totally. I think like that's a easier entry than like someone that's never experienced an artwork like this to come in and be like, how do I do that?
Yeah, totally. And I would say too that Mass MoCA in Massachusetts, my favorite museum. Yeah, our favorite museum. They have an amazing collection of interactive artworks. James Turrell's rooms. There's one room where it's literally pitch blackness, and you hold onto a railing and you can't see anything.
And there's two people.
You're
very
with
similar.
A partner. Yep. Yeah. So big inspiration there. And I know just like seeing, all of his work has made a huge impact on me. And then Laurie Anderson has an amazing collection there as well, from newer VR artworks, which are really fascinating, to her hand phone table, I think it's called, where it's literally, this is like a very big, once you know, once I've explained this, you'll be like, oh, okay.
I get you.
Yeah. But it's a wooden table, and it's also a sound piece. And in order to hear the sound piece, you need to put your elbows onto the wooden table and put your hands to your ears, because the sound is actually vibrating and reverberating like off of your body, and then traveling through your bones to your ears. So like that's how you hear what the sound is in the piece. And there's like I don't remember what's inside of it, but there's like a very low rumbling and like vibration to the table. So like the wood is vibrating it, and then when you put your hands to your ears, your body's also vibrating.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because you've done something really unique here where we're just listening to our bodies, right? And we'll get into that more, but I think that's really interesting. It was like, just reading a couple of days ago, kind of like in preparation for this, that the frequency that our bodies exist at, you know, because they're all working, like pumping blood, and like it's happening at such a low frequency that we can't actually hear it or perceive it. And if we were able to hear that zone of frequency, it would sound deafening.
Yes.
So I love the idea that like we've got these opportunities to try to listen to our bodies, because one, we're not able to, and two, we don't slow down to consciously do that enough. I think anytime that we are vocalizing, it's something that feels like it has to be intelligible or a way that we're communicating, right? Like there's not a lot of just like release in listening and sound in our daily lives. So I think like that's very similar to me in what you've done here. Yeah.
That's really interesting as well, because a sound artist composer I'm also very inspired by is R. Murray Schafer. And he has this book called The Tuning of the World. And The Tuning of the World, there is a reference to the frequency of the universe and the world. And like some people claim that they can hear the low frequency that like the world is operating on. And it slowly drives them crazy, because we're not supposed to hear that. And that sounds similar to me, like if we could hear how our body operates, we would go crazy. But yeah. So that's definitely like a very, just like thinking about the frequencies that exist around us in terms of sound that we either choose to ignore or selectively ignore in order to focus on other things, and then things that, like frequencies that maybe we're not supposed to hear too. Not supposed to focus on.
Exactly. I love that connection. I'm glad to know that. I read like little bits and pieces of that book, and I loved that he was really like coming into that place of research from a very scientific point of view, just as like I'm collecting sounds from environments because we don't know what the world sounded like in, you know, medieval times. We have no like historical record of the sounds of the environment. Like we can read about these things and we can like see paintings and all of that visual context and written things, but we don't have any context for what life sounded like at that time. And so his goal was really to come into environments and just record the environment. Like, what does that room sound like? What does your house sound like? And you did that really beautifully with the first music box.
So that book inspired the first music box that I created, which was essentially exploring the sound of architecture and the frequency and vibrations of the architecture around you. So I was trying to achieve with music box floor number 1 was to have the user become one with their environment. Because before that I was building wearables that were more so I wanted the user to bring their environment with them wherever they were going. And to me, clothing and architecture serve the same foundational purpose. They protect the wearer or the user from the outside environment. So that's what I was trying to achieve with bringing my architecture with me in my earlier wearables. And then when I was making music box floor number 1, I was like, okay, how do I explore that idea further? And instead of you bringing the architecture and your home and memory and experience with you, how do you become part of the architecture? And explore what that architecture sounds like, what it feels like. And in that first piece, it's 3 times as long as this one. And it's made for one person to wear it. And essentially you're covered by a large blanket type thing. You climb into the middle of the sculpture, which is hollowed out for about like a it's like
so you're
6 feet.
Basically climbing into like a coffin that's in the middle, and then like your face is exposed.
Exactly. Yes. And then in order to cover your body, there's like a very heavy blanket attached to the piece with magnets, so it like lays taut over you. And then the only part of your body that's exposed is a little circle of your face, so you're like looking out like this, but you're laying flat on your back, so you're looking directly at the ceiling. So I was trying to think about all of the human senses, minus a few, minus smell. I didn't incorporate smell. I haven't gotten there yet,
right?
Maybe in the future. So I was trying to think about how do I make somebody experience or become part of the architecture. So I was like, okay, if they become part of the floor, what are they going to be looking at? They're only going to be looking at what's directly above them, because the ceiling and the floor are parallel. And then I was like, okay, thinking about coming back to the frequency of the architecture, I'm like, okay, I want the only thing that the person in the sculpture to experience and to hear is the frequency of the architecture. So I hid 2 mini guitar amps that are way tinier than these ones. They're like this big. So I hid those inside of the sculpture, and then those were connected to contact microphones. And contact microphones, what they do is pick up the vibration of whatever they're on. And so the floor was wooden, and wood is very good for vibrating and creating frequencies. Like if you think of a guitar and a violin, like most instruments,
it's a very resonant space.
So then the contact microphones connected to the wood. If people walked around the sculpture, like you would hear the vibrations of their footsteps. So then in that way, all you were hearing was what the floor would hear. And so then I was trying to, again, like create an immersive experience for people to like understand and become one with their architecture and experience that deep listening of their surroundings. Whereas this one,
it's a really unique opportunity. It reminds me of, there was a musician it was back in the 60s. I'm horrible with names, so I apologize, but he would go on listening walks with people where they were just quiet, and he would like take them through the city, and that was all they were doing, was just like listening to their environment. And I think that it's pretty rare that we are conscious of all of the sounds that we're surrounded by. Like you talked about before, we're actively and sometimes passively tuning out the world around us. And so to have this opportunity where that is your only job now is to listen is really unique. And when I saw pictures of that work, I was just like struck very viscerally. And it's amazing to be able to feel that from a photograph of a work that's meant to be immersive. It's pretty powerful. And I was just obsessed. Like I went into Jordan's room and I was like I have to meet this artist. I have to like experience this work. This is like, there was just like this need that I felt to be with that work. And I reached out, and that's kind of when this started to be born, Music Box Interior, which is really just flipped everything from the original Music Box on its head. Because now it's, instead of this external listening experience where we're listening to the environment, now we're really tuning into the body itself.
Yes.
And I think I'll let you talk about it, but it's really well done.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. Like, I just want to say, I think one of my worries with my work is if somebody's not able to experience it, then will they really be able to react to it like that, and to understand what it might, the potential of what it might be,
right? Yes.
So I just really appreciate you having that experience, just seeing the documentation of the work itself, because I created the first one during COVID, so very few people actually got to experience it, which is just like very sad for me. So this was just really great to be able to make a new version of it for more people to experience, because it's such a unique experience, I guess.
Well, and I'm curious about that too, because I mean, that work was back in 2021 is when you did the original Music Box. When I reached out to you, I was trying to figure out a way to get that same work in Hammerspace.
Yeah.
And we decided that wasn't going to be possible, but still, in a lot of ways, you're revisiting old work by creating this new piece still. And I'm curious, as an artist myself, I know that once an idea has left and you're on to the next thing, that it can be really hard to come back into that frame of mind. So I'm curious what that experience was like for you as well.
I actually really enjoyed going back there, but I had been wanting to make the next iteration of Music Box since I had created the first Music Box. I was like, okay, I've done the first one. Now let's make another one. And I just didn't have the resources or really know where I wanted to take that. But then when you had reached out and we had ideated and come up with creating the inverse of Music Box, so taking an old idea, but then making it into something completely new. It was just something that I needed to do and had wanted to do for a long time. So you had reached out at an opportune moment, I think. But I think also it's like these concepts that I was once so obsessed with, like it's kind of just, it's honoring them and honoring the research that I'd done as well to come back to it and think about it in a new way. And I think it was a really great creative exercise as well, just generally.
You had like some serious constraints, right?
Yes. It was like it was a really challenging piece to make, but then it was a very good creative exercise for me to just kind of think in a new way, or like take concepts that I had been thinking about and then bringing something new to life, because sometimes I'll get stuck on when ideating for a piece, like, oh, like where do I want this to go? What am I trying to say? But then here it's kind of like, okay, here's your constraints. It was kind of like getting a prompt and then working within the prompt, which I had a lot of artists tell me is very helpful for them. And I'm always just like, I don't need to do that. Yeah. But having that experience really, really was beautiful. And then we created something that I'm like super happy with and like really excited that people have been able to spend time with it, and then to also create collective compositions with each other within the work.
I think the timing of it really all fell together perfectly, because the original Music Box was blue vinyl. It was very similar material, like a marine vinyl is what we're thinking it was, and just blue, and it was quilted, larger squares, but like tactilely very similar to this Music Box interior. And then we're starting to, think about what color, and you had done a sketch and it was this kind of rusty red color. And then it just so happens that there was a roll of that same marine vinyl
in a rusty color.
In a rusty color that was available through Hope and was donated to this making of Music Box interior, which just floors me because the original material was found as well, right? Like you didn't pick that out.
At my college that I was at the time, because that was actually my undergraduate thesis. And I just happened upon this massive roll of blue marine vinyl, and I was like, what am I going to do with that? I don't know, but I'll take it. And then it became Music Box.
Yeah, it was like the colors are perfect to me, like inverses of each other. And then again, to have these microphones that are now above the viewer's face and capturing their breath or whatever sounds they're making and then amplifying it back into the space rather than before just listening to the room. And now I think one of the biggest differences is that it's for two people instead of one, which I think is really important. And I was very excited when you brought the idea up, like, should it be for a one or two? And they were just like mind blown. I hadn't even thought about the fact that two people could exist in a sculpture like that.
Totally, yeah. So I will say, like, multi-person wearables are something I have been thinking about for a long time, but then I also viewed the inverse of Music Box floor number one, since it was for one person. I was like, okay, the inverse of one person in a very large space all alone, experiencing their environment, like the vast environment around them. And it's like very intimate in the way that you're swaddled in the piece. I was like, okay, the inverse of that is to have two people in a smaller space, and for the intimacy to be built between the by being near another body, essentially. So like, the intimacy is built between the two people experiencing the piece together, rather than the intimacy being alone, like in a claustrophobic,
Yeah, because now the body's exposed.
Yeah.
Your head is the thing that's covered, whereas in the first one, your body was the thing that was covered and your face was the thing that was exposed.
Yeah, and then like the architecture was the performer in the last piece, and then in this we have the users as the performers, and I think people don't really realize that they're about to perform for a room full of people when they enter the sculpture and installation, which is a really beautiful thing to see how people react to that and how they might feel very comfortable or uncomfortable playing with a sound like this. And I was actually just reflecting on this piece with somebody else recently, and how it is a music box because we are making music together, and that's like how the first music box was picking up sounds, and like we're calling those sounds and those frequencies music. But this is more so an instrument because you have people like able to play whatever they want and like use this as an instrument. And I was like, wow, like I had not thought about that before.
That's a great way to put it.
The first music box literally came to be because I'm also a musician, I'm a violinist, and I was like, how do I incorporate the violin into my practice, into my wearable sculpture practice? Like, how am I going to incorporate music? And I really thought I was going to be like, oh, I'll play the violin in a performance while I'm wearing a sculpture or something like that. But then did a lot more research and like thought a lot more about like what sound could be, what is music, what is a composition, and then landed on these music boxes and incorporating sound into my work in a new way. But then also I wanted to mention that with the two people composing it and creating music together in music box interior, they're creating a spontaneous and collective composition, which is like very John Cage, very Cajun,
right?
Which is also just like another one of my big inspirations in sound. Been reading a lot of his book Silence and like his collection of essays, and thinking
where like silence doesn't actually exist.
Silence doesn't exist,
right?
Yeah, because if we're silent, there's always something that's going to be making noise, even if it's just hearing the buzzing in your ears or like the whirring of your nervous system. But that's also important, is that the two people together are creating something spontaneous.
Yeah, I wasn't sure, when we were thinking about this and putting it all together over, those few months that you had to make it, which is incredible that you were able to do this. We got it in the space and we were testing the mics. And I remember when I first went in it, there was no one else in the room and I was just breathing. And so that was sort of my intuitive, like, this is what I'm supposed to do in here is to breathe. And then I remember you coming in and starting to make sounds. And I'm thinking like, she's making sounds in there. Like I wouldn't have maybe released enough to allow myself to spontaneously and intuitively make noise. Because I do think it takes a certain, probably like personality, like you're a musician.
Yeah.
But also a certain amount of release and like vulnerability to be able to do that as well. And I wasn't sure, because I know my breath is important. Like it's the thing that tethers us to life, but I wasn't sure why are these noises important to me? And like, it took me a while to get there, that this is like a very, very human experience that we do not get very often in life, where we're allowed to just make noises.
Yeah.
And that sounds so silly, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's the same as if you have a pencil in your hand and you have a blank canvas and you just let your arm move where it wants to. It's hard to let ourselves do that. And I think it's really, really beautiful, and it is a window into our subconscious when we're able to allow our bodies to do that. And I think this is the exact same thing. It's just vocalized. It's like the vocal version of that, like free hand on a canvas. So I'm really grateful that you brought that musical quality into this work, because it would have never even like crossed my mind, honestly. I would have just like laid in there and like
breathe.
Yeah. But I think it's really magical, because when you're in there and you have these two bodies and you're making either you're breathing or you're making sounds, you can't be coordinating what you're doing, right? Like you can't see each other, you're just in this box. And yet, because it's looped, and we haven't really talked about that yet, but because it's looped and it's replaying onto itself over and over and over again and continuing to build, you also have this harmonizing that's happening just because that's what happens apparently with people. Like that there was no intention, and like these noises and our voices are just being, and yet together somehow a harmony still can exist out of that. Is incredible.
We're finding beauty in the chaos, or the chaos like becomes
somehow organizes in a way.
Which is so fun. I mean, I love to hear how everybody has interacted with this piece. And honestly, when I was thinking about, should people just be breathing in it, or should they be making noise, I just thought about what would I do if somebody put a microphone in front of my face. And I'm like, I'm not going to be able to contain myself. I don't think I would be able to just breathe. Like, I'm going to laugh. I'm going to giggle. I'm going to like want to yell into it.
Well, it's like Samantha, who's here in the room with us, when she entered this space, she like had no idea what to expect. And she just started laughing. And then the laughs are like building on top of each other. And it's like very overwhelming very quickly. But it's just like she couldn't contain that. And I think it's really amazing that that's like, that is the piece.
Yeah, totally. And I think I said this earlier, but I just really want people to reconnect with the sense of awe and wonder that I think a lot of us lose in adulthood. And through my practice and through making things interactive, I'm just like playing around. Like I just want to, like I'm exploring some of the things that I'm making, like I'm exploring very heavy, serious concepts, but then life doesn't have to be so serious, right? Like, I'm like, that's kind of where I'm coming from in a lot of ways, is like, okay, like things are really serious. So then how am I going to digest the concepts that I'm thinking of? And a lot of the times it's like through a place of awe, wonder, and like just kind of like a wacky way of approaching things and viewing the world. Because it's like I'm always questioning why things are the way they are, and like why are we reacting to things the way we do. Like if, like you said, like if you had a microphone in front of your face, you'd be like, why? I would be like, just quiet. And it's like, why do we do that? And then why don't we allow ourselves to be weird and like experiment with our voices, with sounds, with music, even if we're not musicians? Or like, why don't we let ourselves draw whatever we want and like put pencil to paper and just let ourselves explore? But yeah, recently I've definitely been like, how do we have fun in the sculpture, even if it's maybe serious?
Well, you say that, and yet these are also extremely structured.
Yeah.
You know, like you're working in a process that I think is really interesting too, because we've talked about kind of all of these intersections that you've collapsed into making these very immersive pieces, but you're also working in a material and medium that's extremely structured, because quilting is something that you've carried through for quite a while now in all of your work, that takes a lot of time and energy and precision. And it's unique too, because it is kind of a community driven process as well, which I love. And this was very community driven. A lot of hands helped make this, but I think it feels very important to me that you're quilting, because it carries this feeling of care and like protection, like you talked about in the very beginning, that architecture and our clothing are the same. They're just protecting us. That you're bringing this very traditional craft medium into fine art in a way where it can carry this very domestic feeling and point towards a material and process that's extremely undervalued. Like you talked about, I don't want to learn how to sew, it's women's. Like that's part of what this carries as well, right? So I think it's really interesting that you've landed on quilting. And I know that it's not necessarily that like material or process, but you've talked about before just even the shape of the square being important to your work.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
The shape of the square, I'm very interested in boxes generally, music box, interior. But I'm really interested in boxes and vessels that are maybe seemingly mundane, and then trying to understand why they're so important to me, or trying to understand kind of the importance of the box generally. So like in some of my earlier works, I was really inspired by my paternal grandparents' RV, which I consider as a transient box that they would travel in, that is not tied to like time or place. And then in a more recent work, I've been thinking about a rice box, which is a rice dispenser, and that box also was very significant. That belonged to my maternal grandparents, and it was it's an appliance that you store dry rice in. And I used to play with it as a kid, and it has like it has a cultural significance to me. Like my grandparents are from the Philippines, and like that object I view as an object that ties me to my Filipino heritage. Mm-hmm. So that was another significant box in my life. For music box, I was also thinking about, creating music. What's a box that creates music? Obviously, music boxes exist. So kind of rethinking that type of box. And then in my more recent work, I'm thinking about balikbayan boxes, which are also a Filipino thing. Like I'm looking at my mom. But it's basically a send home box, and you send home whatever resources, send home to the Philippines. Overseas Filipinos send them back to the Philippines, and you fill them with resources you think that your family might need there.
It's like care packages.
Like a care package, exactly. So I've been thinking about the balikbayan box, and how the balikbayan box as itself is a concept, but you just are sending things in cardboard boxes. So thinking about that also as a culture, like something that has a box that has cultural significance to me, and again ties me back to my Filipino culture. Yes. So then the box and the square have always like keep coming back to me, and I keep trying to rethink like this very simple shape and very simple object that we, in a lot of the times, about like some of the boxes I'm working with, like we interact with every single day, and it's coming to them and viewing them with that sense of awe, and being like, okay, this mundane object, how do I like continue to explore it, and then like understand it, and like why it exists and what it means to me, and like why does this cardboard box like hold sentimental value to me. So just trying to like explore those concepts and those aspects of boxes in my life.
How do you think that this box now like will move forward with you?
This one in particular? I mean,
I'm curious what you've taken away, because we haven't talked really in depth since you've experienced what you've made here.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, what are you taking away from that now? Like, how does that maybe influence the next box?
Totally. I think that first, it was very collaborative. Like Hailey and I really worked together on the concept, and then I just kind of drew up, this is what it'll look like. And then Jordan was like, what if we add the element of looping to the sound? Like, how do we make it more like playing on the more musical aspect of it? How do we make it more of a composition? And that collaboration has been really inspiring to me. And like the way we've been able to build something that I think together is so much stronger than like if I were to have just been like, okay, like it's just like, I don't know, like
you have made it very significant.
I think like getting those ideas and being able to ideate with people who are interested and understand the work is really important to me, and like being able to have that experience has been very inspiring. But in terms of the musicality of the piece, like the live looping was not something, like I had live sound in my sculptures before, but the live looping and having somebody here to mix the sound, to manipulate the sound and manipulate the experience in that way, I think was yeah, something I'm going to be thinking about a lot, because I do think about manipulating people's experiences, because I'm literally making you experience this. And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, and I'm going to make something that immerses all of your senses, so that like you have to experience this in a very specific way. So I'm like very interested in like what that manipulation means, and like
well, I think the loop is interesting too, because of your fascination with the box again.
Yeah.
In a way, it feels like that square that you're operating within somehow.
Totally.
So yeah, I'm curious to see how that continues.
That makes sense. Yeah, for sure. So that, live looping, the composition, the collaboration, and then also the form here that I have with the two bodies in the space is also something I've just been thinking about. And I'm like, how do I do this again in a different way?
Where you've got multiple people experiencing the work at once.
Once.
Well, I'm really glad that we were able to do this together, and that all these materials made their way to us. And
yes, thank you so much. I
know that it came with a lot of help.
Yes.
There are a lot of hands involved in creating this, so just very grateful.
Yes.
Yeah.
Shout out to all my studio assistants. Shout out to Xavier.
Yeah.
He helped a lot with
the construction. Yes.
The construction of the foam and all of that. But I did just want to touch on too how I said at the beginning of the talk, I was like, I don't want to learn how to sew, and I landed on becoming a quilter.
Right.
And I think that that's a really beautiful journey for me, because when I was a kid, I was like, I'm going to do things differently. And now I'm like, I want to hone this craft. And I think it's such an amazing craft. And I want to be able to bring it into my work as much as I can, and to highlight it in a way that makes sense for me. And I don't think that, I think like it's important to like bring the craft into the fine art. So
I think
I'm happy to
fibers are like really making a resurgence right now. And I mean, maybe just building to a certain level of momentum that we haven't seen yet. I mean, I think that there was a lot of attention on fiber work in the 1960s, when like it was this first revolution of this belongs in the fine art conversation. I feel like now we're kind of reaping the rewards of that, where it is being accepted into institutions in ways that we haven't seen previously, and creating these really valuable experiences out of this very traditional craft that is so labor intensive, and yet is just completely not seen that way.
And dismissed in a lot of ways. And what, like, this was a labor of love, insane to quilt this. I do not recommend quilting with marine vinyl. It's painful, like, but like, I mean, it's a process that I enjoy to do, but like, I don't recommend, like, it is
not ideal for material.
But like, it's something, it's the material I chose to work with for this. Like fibers, when I see fiber work, I want to touch it, and I want to interact with it. So I want people to be able to experience that tactility with my work, because that's something that I've always like.
No, it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. And I just want to open it up for questions before we wrap it up here. If anyone has a question for Bella, for myself.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Have you thought about recording the sounds that people make so that you could make your own compositions with them later?
From this piece in particular?
Yeah, from like any of the pieces that, like this one, because you don't know what people are going to do. It'd be interesting to actually have a copy of that, and see what kind of music you could do, or like play the violin to that and make your own compositions.
That would be really interesting. We have recorded a few of the sessions of folks, so that I have the recording of what people have been doing. But I've never thought about using what I gather from my sculpture and art recordings to then make it into something new. But
I love that.
I love that.
I actually have to tell you something. Last night, I ran one of the videos with the audio through an AI cleaner, right? Just to see if I could like make the sound feel crisper. And what happened was very interesting. And it's meant to clean, right? So it's looking for interference, it's looking for background noise to cancel out and to find the voices. And so what it did was, right, it would have just cleaned all of it, right? But what it did was try to make voices out of the sounds that were here, which was shocking. Listening to it for the first time, I was like, what? Who's talking? Like, is this the right recording? I was like, what is happening right now? But then, yeah, looking back on it, I was like, oh, well, yeah, it like can't exist in that interference that we've created here. Like, it has to organize it in a way where it feels like someone is trying to be intelligible.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So it's like a very human thing that we've done here that like beautiful. AI like isn't able to even like.
I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
I'm sure to learn. I'm sure to learn from that experience and then be like, oh, people need these weird sounds, so we're not to be cleaned. Yeah. But no, that's awesome.
It's really interesting. AI. Yeah. I'll have to send it to you. But
please do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I was curious too about those recordings and whether or not you would just listen to them like just like with headphones. Because it was pretty interesting what was happening, like at the opening with the different compositions building and
and I think that experience will only exist here with the sculpture, right? And I'll do the best that I can to document and archive what was being done here, but I think the beauty of an installation like this is that you really had to be there to fully understand what was going on.
Yeah.
I know you talked before a little bit about like sound as sculpture and kind of like that, like almost like that extension. You know, sound is this like extension of the sculptural object. So I don't know how you're feeling about that with like this piece now. I mean, it did kind of create its own sort of not object, but like experience the sound.
Yeah, I would say it created its own environment, and with each couple who was composing the piece, it would change the environment that you were in. And I mean, sound does like totally change the architecture and that you're in, and it also like defines it in its own way. So like the way that my voice is bouncing through the space, like it's hitting a wall somewhere and it's creating like a little bit of an echo, and that's how like that's an experience of this like a sonic like, experience of the space in itself, because like this room is empty, there's nowhere for the sound to fall, so like that's shaping how you're understanding the space. If we were in like a cave and my voice echoed into the darkness, then like even if you weren't able to see anything, you'd understand that you were in a very vast place, and you'd like have a general understanding of the shape of the space that you're in. And so then I think with this, we were manipulating that environment, and then with whatever the people inside of the sculpture decided to do, like shaped and changed that each time. Yeah,
it was really cool.
Cool. Thank you.
I do have to say that when Dad and I first did this, it was weird, and it was really uncomfortable. Like it was like I felt like vulnerable.
He's like, some people did. No. But I also like, I'm really interested in making spaces that are both very uncomfortable and comfortable at the same time, and like existing within that dichotomy. Because a lot of the pieces that I make are very futile and strange to where they're not intuitive at all. But then I do usually I ask people to wear them and experience them in the gallery or wherever the piece is existing. And a lot of the times it's something that people have never done before, or like they look silly wearing it. So they're feeling like a little bit uncomfortable. But then when they're using it, it's usually made out of fibers. It's warm, it's soft, it's squishy, it's like inherently comfortable. And when people like are able to interact with the sculpture for a little bit longer, they're like, oh my God, this is like actually so comfortable, just like lying down. I'm like literally in a bed. Like why was I so uncomfortable entering it? Because I'm making you part of the piece and part of the work. You're also on display. But great observation, because I am trying to make you feel uncomfortable and comfortable at the same time. So
Well, I'm really grateful that all of you now get to experience this work after you wrap this up and pair off. And if you haven't already experienced Music Box Interior, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for joining us today and coming to listen to me talk.